On this episode, we talk more about Star Wars, the Terminator, Zorro, and much more. I'm Joe.
I'm Nate.
I'm Garrett, and it's the Aliens and Cowboys podcast.
Welcome, everybody. It is good to be back. Not only did we miss a week of Aliens and Cowboys, so we apologize for that, but I have not been doing anything Aliens and Cowboys related for a couple weeks now.
What have you been doing, Joe?
Gosh, I've been busy, man. I've been busy, but it's been good.
I saw one UFO while you were gone.
That's right. You did send me
I took a photo
evidence.
And I showed you.
You did. It is rather suspect. The bright, shiny, stationary object in the sky. I mean,
everything in the picture is stationary. Just like point that out.
That's a very good point, Nate. Thank you for that.
Touche. However, this particular object shouldn't be there.
I was told the object was stationary, I should say.
It was very shiny. It wasn't moving, and it was in the middle of the day. These guys are getting more like spontaneous.
Yeah,
they're getting bold,
brazen.
Yeah.
Coming out broad daylight, just taunting us with our lack of knowledge.
I almost got a car accident.
You specifically, yeah, that's true.
Taking photos of it.
Got to get this to send to Joe, so he'll believe me this time.
I should have got a video of it.
You should have.
Stop moving.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
my next thing.
I trust you. I'll take your word that it wasn't moving.
Yeah, it was just weird. I wonder, and I didn't look for the news. I wonder if anybody else spotted it.
You know, you should create like a Iowa
conspiracy
UFO
theory?
watch. I don't know.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah. You need to go on the dark web and find the Google of the dark web and start researching UFOs.
You don't even know how to get to the dark web.
I don't want to know how to get to the dark web.
Well, tangent. Is there like
that's all we do on this?
Is there like a different way to get to the dark web? Like obviously, if I went to like Google.com. Like, is there a different website I can just go to right off my regular browser that's like the dark web? Or do I have to like code somehow into like a back door?
I don't think it just like announces to you like, you are now entering the dark web.
You have mail.
Your background changes
you
like
have to
a
connect
gray
via
scheme.
dial-up. That's the key.
Yeah. I'm just you get approached by so many people. I'm just curious, like, how do you think you access it?
I don't know. I could not tell you.
Have you ever accessed it?
Not intentionally.
Sounds good. Okay. If anybody knows how to, well, I shouldn't say if anybody knows, contact us.
Yeah, maybe let's not do that.
Maybe you don't have to send me any links. Maybe you can just email me a pathway, like typed out pathway on how somebody would achieve going to the dark web.
Open it in safe mode.
Safe search. It's just no fun then. Anyways. So, Joe, welcome back. Nate, welcome back.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a while since you and I, Nate, have been back at this together, all three of us here. What have you been up to? I know you've been busy, too.
Buying a home, selling a home, planning a 2-year-old's birthday party.
That takes some time, for sure.
Planning your birthday party.
Oh, yeah.
This old man turned 33.
Woo. Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say.
Yeah, happy belated birthday.
I think I told you this, too. I can honest to God say that I've forgotten my age twice when people have asked me. Where I had that aha moment where I told them one number and I thought,
did you guess older or younger?
Right. I always thought I was younger.
You don't look it. You don't look it, Nate.
I don't always have a mirror in front of me either, so.
Okay, I guess so. That's what I'm going to do. I always thought I was younger than I am.
Yeah, let me check my driver's license 1 second.
Yeah. How convenient. Does Erin guess you as older or younger?
Oh, she remembers my age all the time.
She throw it in your face?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
She always knows how much younger she is than I am.
Nice.
Yeah. Still doesn't help me from getting carded, though. I'll tell you that much.
You got that baby face.
I know. I did shave for No Shave November, October 31st.
I didn't do it. I did a no shave for October and November. Can't even tell.
And I'm beating you in 5 days.
Yeah. Well, anyways, tonight, Joe, so I think the last episode we had, and again, apologies for not putting one out last week. Joe and I have been busy on the Watchmen for Nixon podcast.
Yes.
So we're breaking down the Watchmen television series on HBO. That's going great. Actually, we're getting a lot of great response on that. It's actually surprisingly taken off in a lot of countries. Internationally,
it's really cool.
Pretty decent presence, so that's pretty cool. It's a great show, too. If you haven't seen the show, watch, like I said, The Watchmen, HBO, it's great. We have a companion podcast. Again, that's Watchmen for Nixon. Go out there, subscribe to that. Even if you don't want to listen to it, so just subscribe anyways.
Yeah, it sounds good. I might even give it a shot.
Oh, hey.
Oh, weird.
Thanks, Nate.
Are you even subscribed to this one?
Yeah, well, you know how long it took me to subscribe to this one.
Yeah, I do. It's embarrassing.
Sudden surge in downloads.
Yeah.
Oh, where's this coming from? Oh,
Yeah,
it's Nate.
Iowa.
Thanks, Nate.
It's coming from Iowa. It's coming from inside the house. We did talk Star Wars, Nate, last time you and I were together, but we kind of didn't. Go ahead.
Not intelligently.
Right. So we were
Which is why
wanting
Joe's
Joe.
here.
Joe was supposed to pop in that night. Something
I was,
came up.
yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good, Joe.
Very sorry.
But the important part is, Joe, you're here now. So let's just break this down. Let's go on a Star Wars tangent for a while, see where this takes us. I did see the movie Terminator. I will give it my review midway through this podcast. It will be full of spoilers, so you can skip that part. And it's just not good. So we'll get to that in a little bit. But Joe, take it away. Let's talk some Star Wars.
Star Wars.
Let's talk your
One of my
opinion
favorite
on
things.
this new trilogy.
Yep.
Star Wars as a whole, where we're going to go with it, what you would have changed in The Last Jedi,
Okay.
what you're expecting out of Rise of Skywalker, and specifically your opinions on them riding horses in space and C-3PO going Rambo with the bowcaster.
Yeah. So,
And could you
firstly-
answer those questions
In order.
in order?
I was going to say, I'll try to remember to touch on all of those separate topics there. I'm actually going to jump in at the horses because a lot of people have been talking about our space horses that are somehow being ridden atop a Star Destroyer that's in space, and what the hell is happening here? I don't think it's technically in space. I think there is an ice planet, an ice asteroid maybe of some kind that we kind of get a glimpse of from this trailer. And we see it at multiple points, including one of my favorite shots from this trailer where the Star Destroyer breaks up through the ice. It looks like from underneath the surface and starts taking off. And that is such a cool shot. I cannot wait to see this. But that is, I would hazard a guess, what is happening when they're riding on those horses.
What
Is
makes you
that they are
think-
within atmosphere.
What makes you think that it actually breaks through? What if it just the ice is so thick it starts cracking it and just can't get through it, and it just like and just goes back down? Like you're assuming
We tried, guys.
You're assuming it's going to get through.
Well, no, there's a shot where it shows the top part of the Star Destroyer kind of breaking through the surface.
Right.
Although, if someone just wants to subvert my expectations and all the other Star Destroyers just can't break through the surface, then
Yes,
sure.
it would be awesome.
Yeah, that would catch me off guard.
What were you
That's for
saying, Nate?
sure.
Oh, I don't know. I agree with you. I think it's probably like a horizontal view of where you're watching the horses go around and you're just kind of seeing the skyline, which I don't know if that would hold that kind of gravity for an atmosphere for them not to have be breathing oxygen. Well, I don't know what the aliens breathe.
Oh,
but-
that's just
No,
it.
no,
They're
but-
closer to the surface than I think
Right.
we're reading that scene currently, or whatever. I don't know. It's Star Wars.
Here's the
We've
thing.
never been
This
concerned
wouldn't
with
even be a
physics.
problem if Ryan Johnson did not show Leia being crystallized in space. Like we've never depicted people can't breathe in space in Star Wars before, right? I don't believe we have.
I forget. How did she
Not
get
in
sucked
the
back into the
movies.
into the
the
ship?
Oh,
the
the
Force.
Force.
She forced herself.
Schwartz Lone Star.
Yeah, the Force all of a sudden awoke in her, and she just floated back in during a coma.
Is that what that movie was about? The Force Awakens?
No, that was
Princess
the
Leia?
Last Jedi.
Oh, they switched the titles on
Yeah,
me.
they switched directors too, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that's exciting, though. We've talked about this before, though. It is J.J. Abrams that's directing the final installment here. And to back way up, I really enjoyed Force Awakens. I totally understand we're retreading common ground. It was basically a soft reboot of Star Wars, or really, actually not even a reboot. It was basically a remake of sorts of A New Hope. I totally understand that. That doesn't change the fact that I thought it was great. I really enjoyed it. My problems with The Last Jedi are really more focused on Luke. I don't want to turn this into hating on Rian Johnson. I still think that if his trilogy is a go, which it seems kind of back and forth about that, I do believe he still has the green light to do it. And I'm excited for that because he's very creative. It's very clear that he can make successful movies. Knives Out is coming out here very soon. I really want to see that. That's Rian Johnson that directs that, I believe. So I have nothing wrong with him. He's very creative. My problem with The Last Jedi was just how they treated Luke. My problem with the trilogy overall thus far is that tell me how you actually managed to get Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, and Mark Hamill cast in a Star Wars movie and you don't bring them all three together to share screen time. If you want to know my biggest complaint with this new trilogy, that is it. right there.
Yeah.
And now we will never get it. Carrie Fisher unfortunately passed away. Harrison Ford, or should I say Han Solo, is dead within, obviously, the world of this new trilogy. Mark Hamill, or Luke Skywalker, excuse me, he becomes presumably a Force ghost, so his presence will still be felt within the new movie that's coming out here. But still, the time has now passed where we would have been able to have all three of them reunited back on screen. Really frustrating. So
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's my biggest frustration, honestly, with the newest trilogies, that they kind of missed the opportunity to do that.
I'll tell you, I understand that would have been great. I don't even have a problem with that. I have a problem with once Han Solo is dead and Luke knows it, we get no real reaction to that. We get the scene where he goes into the Millennium Falcon and he sees the dice. That's it. There's just what you would expect his reaction to be, what you would expect some mourning to be. Maybe ask what happened. Maybe ask who did it. I mean, we're going to assume that he maybe asked those questions. It just seemed to be like, oh, well, Han Solo's gone. We're going to completely write him out of the story. Yeah. And that seems to be what they did. I'm fine because Luke, being a hermit at that point, doesn't meet up with Leia and Han. Again, I'm okay with that. I don't need to see them together. I had a problem with the way they handled, and I think I'm not the only one. Hamill's had comments. Daniels, C-3PO's had comments about how they're dealing with these older characters. That's what I have the problem with. Isn't so much that they're not together as a group, that they just didn't simply keep the characters seem like they were true to who they were.
Sure.
And that's, I think, my biggest complaint. I think that's most people's complaints. The other thing is, I don't know. The way they obviously handled Luke Skywalker, and maybe Mark Hamill defends it now, and I know he didn't at first.
He didn't at first,
yes.
And I guarantee you he got a talking to from the powers that be,
Yeah.
saying, hey, you're supposed to be saying good things about this movie.
He's definitely towing the line now. I think that's even more disappointing that
Yeah.
he toes the line.
I agree. I mean, it's one thing that I understand these movies are supposed to pass the torch. I like Finn. I like Rey. Really like Poe. He's one of my favorite characters in this new trilogy. But Luke Skywalker, for so many people, is just a beacon of hope and like the epitome of what a true hero should be. And then for the first time we see him after this many years, treat his character the way they treated him is a disservice, I think, to everybody involved. So that's another big gripe I have with that.
I mean, just even up to when we first meet him, he just chucks the lightsaber.
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker would not do that.
The Excalibur of Star Wars. Don't throw it over your shoulder.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just...
And I think there were some comments, I'm going way back now, so don't quote me on this, but I think Rian Johnson was wanting to explore the concept of don't meet your heroes, right? Because they'll only disappoint you. And sure, that would be powerful in your own trilogy. Don't mess with Luke Skywalker when we know this is the last time we're going to be able to see Mark Hamill reprise his role. Well, we're assuming the last time Mark Hamill will be reprising his role as Luke. Give us the heroic Luke. Still have him pass the torch. He can still die doing something heroic, a la Obi-Wan Kenobi from the original trilogy. All those major story beats can stay. Just don't make him an ass. I don't know why that was so hard for them to just be like, oh, let's make Luke really cool and very noble and have him pass the torch in a heroic way to Rey. Great, but they didn't do that. And that, as you can see, pissed me off a little bit.
But I mean, it made everybody mad. I think what also infuriates me is when I go on Twitter, it seems that, and Twitter's obviously real life, it seems like Twitter defends The Last Jedi, like, voraciously. Like, it's constantly says it's such a great film. Almost like it's the best film in the series. And I've seen a lot of people rank it high. And
what are they saying on the Twitter?
I mean...
What are their points that make
their points are that it's new, it's fresh, it's not the old, arguably characters. The old, the thing right now going on Twitter is like, okay, boomer, right? Like the young generation, it's not the old generation anymore. Pass the torch, get out of the way. Like Rey's here, Rose is here, Finn is here, right? Like the diversity is here. The diversity was not there, which I don't understand how it wasn't that diverse. I mean, you had 4 main characters, or 6 characters. You had 2 robots, a female, a Wookiee, and then 2 white guys. Like, yeah, maybe there's not a lot of color, but there's 3 of the 6 aren't even human. You know what I mean? Like, there's to be fair, there's some diversity in that group of people. And I think that they just think the storyline is great. I think everybody likes the idea of gray. I'm getting tired of the gray Jedi already. I like good versus evil. I like that Darth Vader, which is like the most symbolic villain maybe of any series or any movie ever, right? The look, the music, the everything about him, the breathing, you know, he represented evil. It's fine that he turned good, but what he didn't do was turn gray. You know what I mean? Like that's my concern. It's an Anakin started off good, wasn't gray, turned evil. Like it is black and white with this series and always has been up until now.
Oh, I was just going to make a point about Kylo Ren and like the dark side to you. We see Snoke here and there sporadically, but his screen time is very limited.
Yeah.
You see shadowy figures, I guess, kind of in the Force Awakens through communications, but you really don't have the time that they spent in the original trilogy or even the prequel trilogy where you get to spend time with those villains and understand their character a little more. Here, there's no character development. They're just like, this guy's bad, and we got to go get him. Except for Kylo Ren is the only exception.
Yeah.
Which we don't know where he ends up here at the moment.
And Kylo Ren, that's another great example from the newer trilogy, that some people really hate on, because they call him kind of like an emo kid, right? But I think it's a great character, actually. I think it's very important to see his struggle and how he's trying to achieve a goal, but he's obviously doing horrendous things to get there. And this inner turmoil, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make, that he has. So yeah, does it come across a little melodramatic at times? Yeah, it absolutely does. But I still think what they're trying to achieve with that character is pretty cool. I like the interaction between him and Rey. I like the interaction that a lot of these characters have together, and overall the story arc that is there, I'm excited to see how they bring that to a conclusion with The Rise of Skywalker. It's just how they've connected the dots through The Last Jedi to get there has been what I'm most frustrated with. And I know I've talked to you guys kind of what I would have done to rewrite.
Let's hear it.
A couple things, which this is purely fan fiction at this point, and I totally forgot to bring my notes, so I'm gonna wing it and hope I remember all my story beats here. But the major changes would have taken place, what I would have wanted to see, toward the end of The Force Awakens. So keep a lot of the structure there. Like, I'm not trying to rewrite the entirety of The Force Awakens. From the very outset of the movie, though, one thing you'd have to get rid of is this map to Luke Skywalker. It's dumb. Get rid of that. Have Poe be meeting Max von Sydow's character on that Resistance base for Resistance reasons. He's trying to recruit more people to his cause or something like that. But keep the overall context of that opening scene intact. That's fine. Just the reason for being there, change that. Get rid of the whole Luke Skywalker thing. Establish that Luke's out trying to do something. Track down older temples. Trying to unlock the secrets of the Jedi so that he can bring those secrets back to help fight the First Order. Something along those lines. So we don't know where Luke is, but we know in general what he's doing. So that way, fast forward, keep a lot of the story beats the same, we arrive at Starkiller Base at the very end of this movie. So Luke has not been present at all at this point. What I would have wanted to see here are a couple things. One, Han Solo, if we want to have Ben kill him, we can keep that in there. I know Harrison Ford very loudly wanted Han to have died in the original trilogy. So the fact that he's killed in this movie, that makes sense. I get it. But don't have him fall to his death. I would want to see him mortally wounded maybe, but they have to get him out of Starkiller Base at this point. So here's where you'd have to try to connect the dots a little bit. I'd love to see a shot of an X-Wing that's flying through, fighting against all these TIE fighters. And you think it's Poe because it looks like an X-Wing Poe would be flying. And it's intercutting this toward the end sequence where Rey and Finn are facing off against Kylo Ren. So as they are dueling Kylo Ren, a couple of the complaints people have is, well, how are they supposed to be able to fight Kylo Ren, who's this incredibly skilled martial swordsman, when they have had very little training? So they can hold him off for a little while. And this will be important for setting up Rey's development later on. So after he gets disarmed, him being Finn from the outset there, let Rey also try to have her hand tackling Kylo Ren, and maybe she can't quite get it. What I wanted to see, and this is per Mark Hamill himself when he read the original Force Awakens script, is when they do the shot where the lightsaber is force pulled and it gets caught and Kylo Ren's trying to pull it to him, it flies to Luke, who has actually landed. It was his X-Wing that he flew down to Starkiller Base, so he kind of comes in, completely wrecks Kylo Ren at this point. Like, I would like to see no contest here, like to show the fact that Luke Skywalker is still the dude, right? Like, you can't beat Luke Skywalker here. So from here, they escape in the Millennium Falcon. Luke is with Han Solo at this point. They've reunited. They're back on the Falcon. Han's mortally wounded, however. They're trying to get him back to save him. They meet up with Leia at the Resistance base right as he's dying, and then you get that reunion at the very end on the Millennium Falcon with everybody present there. Chewbacca, C-3PO, R2-D2, have them all be right there. And then you can have Han Solo passing in a very kind of morose, heroic way with all of his friends present. And then The Last Jedi, that is where things would be entirely different. So
let me give some criticism on that. First off, no, Joe, that would make too much logical sense to how you ended The Force Awakens. Now, one thing I would tell you, if you're going to keep in the fact that Finn can all of a sudden pick up and wield a lightsaber, I got problems with that. He should have no ability to wield this thing.
See, I'm still okay with that. I'm okay with his ability to pick it up and fight the riot trooper. I'm okay with that. I'm assuming he has some kind of hand-to-hand combat training.
Sure.
So I'm good with that part. I would argue he does not do well against Kylo Ren here. So, like, especially considering the fact, even in the actual movie that we get, Kylo Ren's pretty badly wounded. What I think a lot of people forget, too, is Chewie... Actually, it's Han, excuse me. When he borrows Chewie's bowcaster, shoots that group of stormtroopers, and they fly. Like, this bowcaster is super powerful. And Chewie shoots Kylo Ren with it, and it doesn't blow him back or anything. So he's probably hurting real bad, and he's still going. So I think he still handles Finn pretty quickly in that scene.
Nate, what do you think about that? You be the judge on this.
I'm gonna have to watch it again because I'm sure I haven't watched it as many times as Joe has. But
That's
I found problems with Finn fighting Kylo Ren. He should have been wiped away in 2 swipes of the lightsaber and kicked aside. So should Rey, unless there's some sort of eluded power to where she can adapt and understand how to do things, which they kind of set a precedence for, I think. Where she can kind of touch things and instantly know how to do things.
Right. And that's also a popular criticism that's been leveled at the newer trilogy, where Rey is a Mary Sue. She knows how to do too much too quickly, and that she's too powerful based on what her skill set should actually be. And my response to that is, who cares? Like, Luke, I get that we have a little bit more training that from The Empire Strikes Back. We understand that he would have been training with Yoda before he goes to throw down with Vader, but he hasn't had that much training before he goes off to do so. And it kind of looks from the outset of that duel, you can read it as Vader's toying with him a little bit, of course, but he's still able to hold his own for a while after that little amount of training. So, I mean, I give Rey a pass on that. Her character's supposed to be badass, and let her be badass. Like, I don't necessarily need to see a complete training montage before she throws down with Kylo Ren. I know not everybody agrees with me on that, but I like Rey's character. So
no, it's fine because Luke, I don't want to say Luke grabbed I don't think he grabbed a lightsaber in A New Hope, but
not to fight with.
Right.
No, he gets Anakin's lightsaber, but he doesn't fight with it.
Right. But I mean, and I guess I'm okay with that to some degree. I'm fine with it because you have to admit somewhere in here there's midichlorians that are, allow her to be Force adept. Finn, on the other hand, I just have a problem with the fact that he's able to do that. Just him. Sure. Like, I'd have a problem with Poe doing it too. It's not just Finn. It's anybody that's not arguably, essentially a Jedi.
Right.
So I don't know. I agree. I think that sounds like a way better ending.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, and then I won't rant too much about the Last Jedi any further. What basically I would have wanted to see them do, and this is where Disney taking the axe to the original canon has been a double-bladed sword. On the one hand, yes, I get the freedom that they now have, and the fact that longtime fans of the old extended universe now don't necessarily know what's going to happen, and that's exciting. As a fan of the old books, many of which I have read, going into this completely blind, not necessarily knowing what's going to happen, that's still exciting. I do like to be surprised. I don't like to be subverted for the sake of it, but I do like being surprised. But at the same time, they had so many cool characters and so many cool plot points from the old universe or the old extended universe that now they aren't really embracing in its entirety. And I think that's a grave mistake. One of the biggest things, which they could still end up doing this in The Rise of Skywalker to a certain extent. It doesn't look like they will, because it looks like the final confrontation will be to kill the Emperor once and for all, from what we can gather from this newest trailer. But I still would have liked to see the second installment of this new trilogy be about trying to find a balance between the light side and the dark side to combat a threat beyond the known galaxy. In the old extended universe, this was the Yuzon Vong threat that invaded from outside the known galaxy that were Force immune, essentially. So couldn't be sensed with the Force. Force abilities wouldn't really work on them. You could still throw things into them. So Force push, let's say, you'd try to Force push a Yuzon Vong, they might stumble a little bit, but it's not like they'd get thrown across the room, so you'd have to think, be like, okay, well, I'm going to throw this pillar at them instead. So that Force immunity added some unique flavor to a universe that, prior to that, Jedi, Sith could pretty much run over just about anybody because of their Force abilities. So I think it was a good foil to that, and since this is so much about balance, what better way to speak to balance than them at least first trying a peaceful approach between the First Order and the Resistance by saying, hey, oh, by the way, this is what Luke was trying to figure out. There's this known threat beyond the galaxy that's coming here, and we need to put aside this conflict to try and fight this instead. Which I think could have been kind of cool.
You want a First Order team up?
I do want a First Order team
The
up.
Rebels?
Because
I don't know.
I think, now that would be a way to subvert my expectations in a good way. Like, I know you're talking about good versus evil. That's what I love Star Wars for as well, Garrett. I love how just very clearly the lines are drawn in many cases. Like, sometimes we need stories where good guys win, bad guys are bad, and we want to see the good guys win and feel really positive.
Don't wait. Just wait till I make the argument on why the Emperor is just misunderstood.
Oh, yeah. I'm waiting for that.
You know, he actually really meant to good stuff, you know, and yeah.
And see, and it leaves the door open, though, too. If then you want to have them kind of trying to do this, but the First Order ends up, of course, still being bad, so maybe they're trying to meet, and this could lead to a really cool conclusion. Give Leia a lightsaber. Have Luke get his lightsaber back. He's trained Rey throughout the second episode of the new trilogy. They have to go then try to broker some kind of peace agreement with the First Order, and now Snoke betrays them all, and they're having this crazy fight at the end of the movie, and oh, here's that unknown threat from outside the galaxy that comes in, and then you have this crazy three-way battle between First Order, the Resistance, this outside threat, and it's complete and utter chaos, and then you'd end...
You lost me on Leia gets a lightsaber.
Oh, dude, that's some of the best parts of the older canon.
Yeah, but no longer canon.
Right, but that's my whole point, Garrett, is to bring back parts of the old canon that were really cool. Yeah.
I don't know if that
And
part was cool.
incorporate
Nate,
them.
you rule on that. Leia with a lightsaber. You're ruling.
I've read a couple of the old books from what is now not canon, and I really enjoyed that stuff, especially when Luke starts his own Jedi Academy.
Yeah.
And you have some of the Sith holocrons and stuff, and when they bring back Exar Kun and stuff like that, like the Force Ghost, and they start manipulating the Force-sensitive kids there, I really like those. I thought those were cool.
Yes,
No, I agree with you, but the ruling is Leia with a lightsaber.
Oh, I don't know about Leia specific. Yeah, they make her out, from what I remember, to be pretty powerful.
Well, she floated from outer space.
Yeah,
Well, we wouldn't
that's
have
what I
that
don't agree with.
in my rewrite.
Okay.
We wouldn't have that part. And once again, in Rian Johnson's defense, there is current canon material that those two abilities, the force fueled, if you will, like in outer space, what Leia's able to do, that's from a newer canon source book, as well as the ability to force project like Luke does at the end of the movie.
I'm fine with Luke. I'm fine with Luke's projection. I mean, I don't. That's not
My
what
biggest problem is that he commits suicide to become a Force Ghost. Not like Obi-Wan Kenobi in the middle of the fight where he kind of gives up. That's a little bit different
he
situation than Luke, who's
absolutely
sitting
gives
on
up.
a far distant planet and just goes, "All right, I stole some time away for you guys to get away, and peace out." And then he's done.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I would be fine if he died. I just think he should have physically been there.
Agreed.
It was a great, like,
what I
whoa,
would've
curveball there. You know, that he's actually not even physically there. But it also was like, come on. Like,
Yeah, well, and then, yes, I would have wanted him to actually be there. Once again, if you have this conflict where Luke actually would have been there with Leia teaming up, you've got Rey, you've got all these major players, and then you'd actually see possibly, this is what I would want to see, with that outside threat that starts to come through, you get to see Luke and Kylo team up again for a moment to try and fight off these things. Like, I would have loved to see some of these random team-ups in a moment of panic and chaos where they aren't necessarily like, that's not a light switch. I get that. You can't just suddenly, oh, all your sins are forgiven. But, like, where they're forced suddenly into a specific scenario where they have to fight together, or fight alongside each other, I should say, in order to survive. I think that would have been really cool. It also could have still led to Luke's passing at the end of the second one, if they'd wanted to, where he can still be a Force ghost by the third, and then get a direct way to pass on Anakin's lightsaber. Let Luke have that final battle with Anakin's lightsaber in actual person, though, not Force projection. Let him have the battle with Luke, or with Anakin's original lightsaber, at which point Rey then gets it immediately following if it is a situation where he sacrifices himself.
Sure.
It's a direct passing of the torch, like literally almost in that case.
I got a pitch for you.
Let me hear it.
It's a little bit redundant, given the Obi-Wan Kenobi where he just lets himself go during the fight with Vader.
Okay.
But what if Luke Skywalker actually shows up at the end of that scene, is actually physically there, and they unload all the blasters and everything on him, and just to prove his point about how powerful the light side is to Kylo Ren, he sits there and absorbs all that stuff, and he's there to take it.
Dude, yes.
Then he proceeds to fight Kylo Ren and does almost the exactly same thing. He can't even land a blow on him, but then he still sacrifices himself and then becomes a Force ghost.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed.
It's way more
You don't need
symbolic, and it's a great nod to Obi-Wan. Absolutely.
Yeah. I thought that would have gone over way better.
And it's what the original
thing.
and it's what the original Luke would have done.
Yeah.
You know.
That's the big thing there.
It serves
Yeah.
the same purpose, and it brings another point home to say, Kylo, you're in the wrong at this point. I know I've wronged you. Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But yeah. So anyway,
So let's talk.
all that
Let's
aside,
talk Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
So
Thank
had
you
a
for listening to my rant, everyone.
Yeah, no, it's good. I think most people listening would agree that is a better ending to this, basically story, or even some nice, changes to these stories. If you guys have comments on that, or if you guys want to suggest that Joe's right or wrong, or what you guys would
send
think,
us your own
Send us your own
fanfiction.
theory. Yeah.
email us at aliensandcowboys@gmail.com, and we'll take a look at it. We can even talk about the best one next week. That we like or don't like. If you have a stupid idea, we'll tell you that.
Don't let that discourage you from sending it in.
I'm sure everyone's gonna rush to their computers
Usually that's
now.
my job to be the negative Nancy.
Everybody's a
That's
cynic.
okay. It can be your turn.
Okay, so go ahead, Joe. Tell us Rise of Skywalker. You had a theory on you feel like this is going to be more of an Indiana Jones style Star Wars movie.
I do. And I really hope I'm right about it as well. So there's a lot just aesthetically that speaks to that. So from some of the desert planets it looks like they're on, even their attire, which looks almost a little bit more adventurous in an archaeological kind of style. I would love to see them having to go seek out a method to kill the resurrected, perhaps, maybe never perished Emperor Palpatine, who is very clearly returned. That's a huge part of these newest trailers. We know he's in it. We know he's probably going to be one of the biggest presents and probably the ultimate bad guy as a result of all of these series of events. So yes, I would love to see them have to go on a quest, essentially, to find a series of objects needed to kill him. Now, the most obvious one of these, which I think could be in the trailer, this is a very prevalent theory right now, and I think you guys touched on this last time as well, but the Dagger of Mortis. If you pause right as Kylo and Rey are fighting and they destroy what looks like a shrine of some kind of Vader, as Rey continues to spin, it looks like she has a dagger in her left hand in kind of a reverse grip. And this dagger, while not exactly the same shape as the Dagger of Mortis from the animated Clone Wars series, I have a hard time imagining that this dagger would be anything else. This is a series that does not really have much of a precedent within the movies. Outside of canon, there's a huge precedent for vibroblades and things of that nature, cortosis weave swords that are able to not only block lightsabers, but are useful in a fight. But in the movies, I don't think we see much bladed weapons outside of lightsabers. Obviously, we have Chirrut, who has the staff, actually, in Rogue One, of course. But still, there's not a whole lot of melee outside of a lightsaber. So, Dagger of Mortis. Why this is important: if Palpatine is in fact immortal, or he has found a way to resurrect himself, whatever fancy way they want to make this happen, the Dagger of Mortis would be a perfect way to kill him, because the Dagger of Mortis is capable of killing immortal beings. It removes their immortality, essentially. So
it would make sense that Palpatine, I think that the way to connect it was Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
Was it Darth Plagueis the Wise or whatever could cheat death?
Yes.
And I feel like, people kind of forgot about that as a throwaway. Can't learn that from a Jedi.
Exactly.
And this is obviously his comeback.
I would love to see the callback, because if they're truly going to put a bow on the Skywalker saga, then they better damn well reference that prequel trilogy, which I know not everybody likes. I love the prequel.
I love the
trilogy.
prequel
I know you
trilogy.
do. Yes, I know you do.
I'm a big fan of the Clone Wars. And I
Yeah.
know people don't like it. Hot take. Give me more of it.
Yeah,
Give me
absolutely.
that love story.
Yeah, well, that's why the animated series is so good. I recommend people who are Star Wars fans, if you're not cartoon fans necessarily, or you think it's just for kids, like at least give it a try. The first season feels different than the later seasons do, so try and get through the first season.
You know, let me
But
go on
it's
this rant.
definitely
You know why
worth a
the prequel trilogy is so great? Is you still have the combination of, light versus dark, right? Right
Oh, yeah.
versus wrong, evil versus good. But you also have some great nuance in there. Like, you have the Anakin Skywalker story in the first three, and it is, that he's going from good to bad. So you know where the route's taking him.
Very true.
But in the meantime, he is nuanced. Like, you're like, I feel for him. This is a love story. All he wants to do is save people. His mother, he's a slave. He wants to save his wife and his kids.
Yeah.
There's such great nuance to it, but you just simply know, like, yeah, man, you're just going to lose it, And in the meantime, you have, Palpatine, and you have Yoda, and you've got, I don't know, I can't even explain. It's such a better story. It's a more coherent story than people gave it credit for. Now, I don't think that Phantom Menace is that great. I mean, I don't put a lot of stuff into Phantom Menace. I love the politics of the prequel trilogy. I love this entire thing is based on taxation policy.
Yeah.
And it's so great that this entire conflict. I love that Jar Jar Binks was the linchpin that brought down this entire republic and basically created the Clone Wars. I enjoy that. I just think that is a better story. I think that prequel trilogy, I think the original trilogy, way better story than the current trilogy.
Okay,
and I think that's the problem. I think there are things that people like about the current trilogy. We like the characters. Some of the characters we like. We might like some more than others.
Sure.
I think Kylo Ren is overblown comparatively to like a Darth Maul, even a Count Dooku, or even Darth Vader.
Oh,
I think Kylo Ren is way overblown as far as a person. I know that people like Adam Driver, and that's okay.
Sure.
But the character is actually not that good.
Well, I like Kylo Ren, but I don't disagree. Maul, Dooku, and Vader all day over Kylo Ren.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I'm not going to argue against that.
I can't sit here and take that because I think that's the best character storyline
Kylo Ren?
of the whole
Defend that.
2 of the 3 because
that. That's
you're talking about nuanced characters, right? Someone that's conflicted. Who is conflicted in the last 2 episodes?
he is conflicted. Like it's like a teenage love story between these two. First off,
But there's no one else that's conflicted.
The idea that they're so connected, I don't understand that. I get that the Darth Vader. See, here's the thing.
I agree. There's no explanation for
the
that
Luke
yet.
Skywalker Darth Vader connection that they were having, like in Return of the Jedi and The Empire Strikes Back, makes sense. They're related. Obviously, the canon that doesn't exist anymore. This should have been the story of Jason and Jaina.
It absolutely
This should have been the story that these were Han Solo's
I agree
twin
with you
children, and that would make sense that they're connected in this way. There is nothing to explain how this emo kid can speak to this, this lady.
Well, that hasn't been disproven yet, or has it?
No.
I'm looking at Joe.
That's
asking
just it.
for
We
answers.
don't know, and that's the laziest part, and another part that I really dislike about this newest trilogy is that it feels very disjointed. You go from Force Awakens, which once again retrods familiar ground, but I still think it's strong. It's a fun movie. It's got some great reintroduction of popular characters that we know. But then Last Jedi comes along, and we don't get the Knights of Ren. We don't get an explanation on whose Rey's parents are. Yes, we do. Kylo says that they were nobodies. I don't buy that for a second. I didn't care for that part either. A lot of Star Wars is about the importance of lineage. So, I think you can do both. I think you can have the importance of lineage while also making sure that you are giving the option that everybody could. I don't like everybody being able to be Force sensitive necessarily, but you can still kind of merge those two ideas. But Star Wars is built around the legacy of the Skywalkers. So
What, you didn't like the idea that the top 1% were Jedis? If your dad was a Jedi, that you could be a Jedi, and instead we have random kids being Jedis now at the end of the series. You don't like the egalitarianism of it?
Yeah.
That everybody is just randomly picked?
no, I'm okay with other people randomly
Nothing is more democratic than midichlorians. Let's put that out there. I know people hate it, but what it did is it opened it up that you could have anybody be a Jedi.
Except
I'm
for the
I'm
Skywalkers,
okay
who will
with that.
definitely be
My
Jedis.
point is that it's a story built on the importance of, once again, Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber is Excalibur, these fantasy tropes because Star Wars is much more of a fantasy than it is a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
So the importance of these kind of features that they tried to get rid of in The Last Jedi doesn't make any sense, especially when compared directly to The Force Awakens. If The Force Awakens had tried to do nothing to allude to this, fine. Give me The Last Jedi as it currently stands, but because The Force Awakens did so much to set up all these lingering plot threads that The Last Jedi decided to do nothing with, it makes no sense. It feels very disjointed as a result of that. And now J.J. Abrams has to try to figure out how to connect what he started, what Rian Johnson delivered on, and make it have a coherent ending that not only wraps up this trilogy, but is supposed to put a bow on a 9-film story arc. That's a lot of pressure.
Is that why they're still filming? Wasn't that the rumor that they're still filming?
Oh, I don't think they're doing
No,
reshoots
I don't think they're doing reshoots. Yeah,
they're done.
I thought that was just recently that I read that they're still doing
Gosh,
reshoots.
I hope not. I'll check.
I want to say
I'll check
within the
after
last
our episode here,
week,
but
maybe. But
you know what? It would make sense if they were. So I've got 3 lightning round questions for you, Joe. One, I need to know what your thoughts are on the horseback riding. We covered that, right? Sorry.
yeah, we covered that.
Apologies.
I'm fine with it. I think it's in atmosphere. How they get to that particular shot where it looks like they're riding on a Star Destroyer.
I will tell you this:
don't
if they
know.
are riding those horses in outer space,
they aren't riding them in outer space.
didn't they ride him in
I really do
another
not
movie
think they're
too?
riding them in outer
Or
space.
horse-ish? Was that?
Yeah, it was in The Last Jedi.
Last
I think they're
Jedi,
the same
yeah.
thing, quite possibly.
Okay,
I forget the
all
name of them, but yeah. they
that's
freed them
different
from
though.
the
They were on a
stables.
planet. We just took
Well,
a random side trip to a casino to saw how bad rich people are, which is fine.
It wasn't a cool shot as this one is.
Would you still hate it if they explain very clearly that there's some kind of atmospheric bubble surrounding the Star Destroyer?
Nope.
Would you still hate that, or would you be okay with it if they explain like
one line
hey,
of dialogue?
This is breathable for reasons.
Perfect.
Okay, cool.
But if you just tell
wanted
me
to clarify.
They're
That's it.
force horses, and they have a force field around them full of oxygen.
They have a high count midichlorians.
I'm in a count.
Okay, so last
Yes, we got
last
that.
question, or 2 questions. Sorry, question 2. C-3PO
Yeah.
potentially turning Rambo in this movie.
I think it is gonna happen. I really do.
Is that a good or bad thing?
It's a horrible thing.
I
wasn't
think
asking you.
It will be very
interjecting.
silly, but it's not going to ruin the movie for me. How's that?
It would ruin the movie for me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping J.J. Abrams doesn't do that because that's something Rian Johnson would clearly do. I don't know. Whether people like C-3PO or not, I don't care. I think C-3PO is fine. It's way better than Jar Jar Binks as far as a character. Way less annoying. I think that we've had this idea of droids and being able to like do some damage in the last couple of movies we've had. So maybe that's what they want to go on is a droid that's able to just start smoking people.
Right.
But this is C-3PO we're talking about.
Yeah, it is.
Original
And-
trilogy, they had the war droids.
Right, but what I'm saying is C-3PO has never had any type of physical altercation, and there's no precedent set for C-3PO. And the only precedent set for the other, like say R2-D2, was when he's flying around in Revenge of the Sith, which was kind of campy and not well received.
It was not well received.
Right.
No, it's
so
true.
why would they think that it's going to be well received for C-3PO to go red-eyed and start bowcasting people?
Yeah, I don't know. The other theory I've seen outside of the whole 3PO Rambo, which once again based on assuming they were legit, based on some of the toys that have been released and some of the images that have been released, it seems to show him with a bowcaster and Chewbacca's bandolier. I get it. It seems bonkers. I also didn't think it was real at first, so I don't know what to think really by this point. But like I said, if it is that, it won't ruin the movie for me. I will think it was silly. I will think it would be silly. If it's not that, another prevailing theory is that he's accessing older memories that maybe he's forgotten because he does have his memory wiped. R2-D2 does not.
That is fair.
So that, I hope, is the route that they take, because if it is in fact Palpatine that they're going to have to kill as the big bad, which clearly it seems that that's going to be the case, it would make a lot of sense if 3PO suddenly needs to be hardwired to remember the Clone Wars era. Maybe some piece of intel when he was standing around Palpatine when Palpatine made some kind of remark. Who the hell knows? But I think that could be really important.
I can't wait for them to retcon that.
His hard drive wasn't big enough.
Yeah, jeez, needs a new SD chip. Last question: The Rise of Skywalker. Do you think that it will turn out that Rey is in fact a Skywalker?
I think it will be in some capacity, yes.
Do you think it would be foolish if she turns out to not be a Skywalker and that we used her as the person to put a bow on the Skywalker trilogy or saga?
Not if they handle it well. And what I mean by that is that there's, I think, a very important way that they can conclude this while delivering on the legacy of Skywalker, while letting Rey not be a Skywalker. I want Hayden Christensen back in this. Hot take.
I love me some Hayden.
Yes. I want to see him back in this. Whether it's, more than likely as a Force Ghost. I'd love to see that. Bring them all back. Give me Force Ghost Ewan McGregor. Give me Force Ghost Hayden Christensen. Give me Force Ghost Mark Hamill.
You're going to get Ewan McGregor because he's going to come into Disney Plus. So he'll be there for sure.
Importantly, the lightsaber calls to Rey, though, in The Force Awakens. And we hear a lot of different things as part of this sequence, these visions that she has, and Obi-Wan is a big part of that. So to have Obi-Wan not be included in some capacity, I think would be a very big disservice to the story arc Abrams himself started to create. So there's a way, long-winded response to this, but there's a way to have all of these Force ghosts present at the end, regardless of Rey's heritage. There's a way to do that successfully with them helping her defeat Palpatine, whether it's directly, whether it's advising as Force ghosts, whatever the case may be. And then the rise of Skywalker could then be more of a symbolic gesture between seeing Anakin and Luke and Kenobi and Leia and all these different characters reunited at the end as Force ghosts, at least. So,
questions.
Yeah.
Do you think Harrison Ford shows up?
I don't, actually. I'm going to
How
say
about Natalie
no.
Portman?
Oh, that'd be super cool. I don't think she will, and that makes me sad. I would love to see her in this. So I hope that she does somehow. But the only way that I think you could is through a flashback sequence, which is entirely possible that they'll do that.
I just don't know. We just start force ghosting everybody at the end of this thing.
Well, you still have, yeah.
Oh, you're forcing a lot. See what I did
Something,
there?
Something I did want to point out that I just thought was super cool. The original concept art, and this has been covered all over the place on the internet. I know we're late to the party on this, but the throne of Palpatine that they show in that trailer, you guys might have talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago as well, is almost line for line based on the original concept art from Ralph McQuarrie, who did a lot of the original artwork for Star Wars. A lot of his ideas were ultimately utilized in one way or another. They were altered a little bit, but a lot of his original ideas were used throughout the original trilogy, and they've been kind of repurposed in other ways throughout the other trilogies that have come since. But that shot of Palpatine's throne is directly his artwork that was a thought thrown out to use for Return of the Jedi. Okay. Super cool. I just thought that was awesome.
We were arguing about are thrones too soon after Game of Thrones having to burn down. Are we repurposing that icon?
Like, there's a mirror image of looking at, like,
yeah,
the throne
I get
shot.
what you're saying. Yes, the shot of Rey standing up by the original Palpatine throne from Return of the Jedi on the Death Star. Yeah. Yes, it is kind of shot for shot.
By the way, great segue, Nate. I don't even think you planned that. Let's talk some Game of Thrones.
Ooh, Game of Thrones.
Amazing. So, granted, we
didn't know we were going to talk about that.
I didn't. I text Joe during this and I said, we need to talk about Game of Thrones.
This wasn't a three-way text?
It was not.
You left me out.
Anyways,
just glad to be a part of the team.
Once you subscribe, you get text messages.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's talk some Game of Thrones real quick because Star Wars was perfectly fine. We went long.
Yeah,
who knows
very
how
long, probably.
Because I'm probably gonna rant for an hour on Terminator. So stay tuned.
We have to make up for the week that we didn't release one. So.
Yeah, that's true. This will probably be a 3-hour podcast. So let's do some Game of Thrones. Then let's talk some Zorro, and I will conclude with Terminator.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Okay.
Let's end on a negative.
sounds like we're going to be the Star Wars Skywalker saga. But, Game of Thrones, whatever. Okay, so Game of Thrones, HBO came out, and they canceled the Naomi Watts.
Yeah.
Was it the Age of Heroes
Correct.
story? They even had a pilot already filmed for this. And they canceled this and then greenlit the essentially Targaryen saga. What are your guys' thoughts about this? Also, let's talk about Benioff and Weiss leaving Star Wars, too.
Oh, thank you so much.
So, let's do Game of Thrones first.
Yes, let's cover that, and then we'll get to that. So, I am not hyped for this, frankly. I could get on board with the original Age of Heroes series that they were planning. Was kind of excited on the little bit that we had known thus far about it. I was like, okay, this could be kind of cool. Now that they've canceled it, after they were kind of starting to hype us on it, and now they're doing the Targaryens instead. I love dragons, so that part kind of appeals to me about it. But outside of that, this killed it for me completely. Like, I'm just not pumped for this anymore.
Oh, I'm actually more excited for this one than I am the Age of Heroes, because I am definitely not wanting another White Walker saga.
I gotcha.
So I rather have dragons. Now, I think the way they can do this Targaryen thing, though, is there is a line somewhere with Joffrey talking about how so much crossbreeding and inbreeding of the dragons made the dragons be very, very small, like not large beasts that we knew them in the original Game of Thrones show. You could really have them be neutered in this, and that they are not really a direct threat, that they're just simply background. And I think that might be the smart way for them to take. And I'm excited because I think that this can lead up to Robert's Rebellion.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's where they would take it, but I feel like if you're going to do a Targaryen story, you should probably do the Targaryen story all the way till the end, where Targaryen, the Mad King, I don't remember his name, is Aerys or whatever it is, gets killed by Jaime. And I think that would be a great ending to that show. Robert's Rebellion, you get Ned Stark. Maybe Ned Stark can become a character. Obviously not Sean Bean. But I think that is a little more exciting. It's exciting because we will know some of the characters. So we'll have some of that like familiarity. We can have some story that we already know what's following, because 1,000 years ago, I don't care about Children of the Forest. I don't care about the White Walkers. I don't care about the dude building the wall. I just don't care about that stuff.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's why I was looking more forward to that than this one. I'm complete opposite of you. Like, we got all of that kind of stuff in the series.
We can get it
already.
right this time, though.
Well, okay, fair enough. I mean, strength of writing will be important for this, undoubtedly.
Yes.
But once we talked about this a lot when we covered the last season of Game of Thrones.
It's in the archives.
The fantastical elements quite a lot. And I get that the politics and the strength of writing, once again, was very important for what gained a lot of viewers. Just for me personally. Not everyone's going to agree with me, but I love those fantasy elements. So naturally, having this kind of set many, 1,000 years or something like that prior to the events of Game of Thrones, with really no direct connection to that, that's what had me more excited. This, I think, is going to kind of retread familiar ground, which...
Well, yes, but I think that's... I don't know. I think that's what they're counting on.
It's the grounding force that draws viewers to the brand.
Just like instead of doing Knights of the Old Republic for Star Wars, they're going to something that people will know, right? They chose The Mandalorian, which is a stand-in for Boba Fett.
Yeah.
They chose IG-11, which is a stand-in for IG-88. They're like it's a retread. You know what I mean? Like they're treading on ground that we already are familiar with.
Oh yeah.
So
I will fully disclose that The Mandalorian is quite possibly the most biased I will ever be about
a show you've never seen.
Of a show I've never seen.
He's so protective of it. It's like his third child. You know what? It would be so funny if it bombed just to see you have to criticize it. Like,
it's gonna be so hard.
We're not going to cover.
Joe says it'll never happen.
I do say it'll never happen.
We're not going to cover the show in its entirety, but I will say that we can definitely like divert whatever amount of time you want to discuss it.
I'll try to rein it in on that, because I would go off. You saw you kind of let the reins off and let me just rant on Star Wars this evening, and that took up a huge portion. So
no, that's good.
Who's lending me their account?
I don't even have one yet. I need to get signed up, pre-ordered or whatever. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. Nate, what do you think though about this? Garrett and I are split. Are you happy with the new direction, or did you want to see the old one?
I gotta play neutral party. I can see the advantage to doing both sides of the story.
No, come on.
I can. What surprises me actually is the studio saying, "Nope, we've already filmed a pilot. We already have all this money invested in saying, nope, we're gonna ditch it completely after they've already spent all that cash, and are gonna go with a whole different setting." What a huge misstep from them not making the correct decision in the first place. You know what changed in that period of time? We said, okay, we're gonna go with Age of Heroes versus now the Targaryen series.
I think it's because people don't care about Children of the Forest.
But how do you put it out there and try to get feedback?
Well, Yeah.
To say,
but here's the
this
thing.
isn't good,
Something
this is
happened
gonna bomb.
because they filmed the pilot.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what happened, but obviously maybe what people thought or their reactions
testing
to it
screenings or something.
weren't as positive as they thought.
And there's precedent for that on Game of Thrones on the pilot
They
episode
originally
of
reshot
the original
it.
series. They reshot it.
Yes.
Because it had a different actress playing Daenerys.
Yes.
It had apparently it was awful. To just sum it up in one word, it was terrible. So they redid it. They recast Daenerys. I know nothing about the actress who was originally set to play her, so it's nothing against her. I don't know what the criticisms directly were about the original pilot. But long story short, they completely redid it essentially.
Just didn't want to get naked enough.
So
Well,
who
isn't
knows?
it amazing? How much magic needs to happen in order for something to be successful.
Yeah.
Like you can have all the right pieces in all the right places, but it may not gain popularity.
Yeah, but I
Or
think
changing one or two pieces, like you were saying, Joe, that makes all the difference in a pilot to kick it off.
I think the problem was they were going to base it around the story of like how the Night King comes to become the Night King. I don't think people cared.
Well,
I think
how Game of Thrones.
But that's what I'm
ended, people
saying. I
didn't
think,
care,
but here's the thing though: they were like greenlighting this during the season of Game of Thrones, so that there would almost be like no gap in coverage.
Straight
here.
segue, yeah.
Right now they have to like completely restart it, scout it. So you're talking like 2021, 2022 before you're going to get Game of Thrones,
Maybe
which is
that's
fine.
good, too.
HBO Max is coming out in May, which is their lineup is going to be fantastic. They also, just to save time, they added South Park, they got Big Bang Theory, they got Friends, plus the entire HBO catalog. They got Succession, Watchmen's great. They kind of have Westworld. Like they're fine. You know what I mean? They're fine without Game of Thrones right now.
They're not going to be hurting. If anything, having the length of time, just like you guys were saying, I think that will be good for them because Game of
Agreed.
Thrones left a bad taste in people's mouths at the end of the most recent, or the end of the series. So moving forward, getting too much Game of Thrones again too quickly would also be a problem, I think.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. Well, let's talk Benioff and Weiss then. So Benioff and Weiss, obviously connected to Game of Thrones, were set to do a trilogy for Star Wars. They have left that because they were, for a couple different arguable reasons.
Yeah, a couple different reasons.
They ended up just saying they wanted to devote more time to their Netflix series.
That's a very PC answer.
Right. Well, they came out and clarified later they were afraid of the backlash culture that you get. Obviously, Star Wars, Rian Johnson got dragged through the mud, and rightfully so. He should be dragged through the mud for that. You can at me at Twitter, Alien and Cowboy. Let me know what you think, because he ruined that. Like that. I don't know. To be fair,
Well, somebody's head's got to go on the chopping block,
yeah,
right?
it's his.
Yeah.
Knives Out can be great. Still doesn't mean he didn't
Knives
ruin.
Out looks like it will be great.
I'm looking forward to it.
Still doesn't mean he didn't ruin The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think people are maybe too hard on him because there are some great elements to The Last Jedi. But yes, there are some parts that would have changed. Anyway, we won't rehash The Last Jedi again.
Benioff and Weiss.
Benioff
so,
and Weiss.
why do you think... Now, here's the thing that's really frustrating. As Game of Thrones fans, they rushed Game of Thrones final season to get to their other commitments like Star Wars. To find out that they're not doing Star Wars now.
Yeah.
I get it. Like there was some talk during this time period that they signed on to adapt a work. And I get that. They were supposed to adapt the books. It's not their fault R.R. Martin did not finish the books.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay? They did not want to create the ending to the story. I'm sure that the ending was that they had worked with George R.R. Martin and that he said, I need these specific plot points to happen, right? For all we know, the book will have Arya killing the Night King, Jon going to the north, Daenerys getting killed by Jon, and Bran sitting on the throne, right? Now, if I'm George R.R. Martin, I throw a curveball and none of that happens.
Yeah. Yeah, for
because
sure.
here's the thing: if I want you to buy my book, you know what I mean? Like he's so far, I don't even know how far back the books actually go.
Oh man, he keeps promising he'll get it done, and he.
Where does
then
the
he
final book end?
doesn't.
Like in the remote, and I don't know. I have the book series. Nate bought them for me. I never read them. Thanks, Nate.
It's a good present.
It's a great door stopper. Where does the books end? Does anybody know that?
I want to say it was at Jon Snow's death.
The original death,
The original death, I believe.
like season 5.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay.
I'm pretty confident in that.
I'm kind of sad. I want a Benioff and Weiss Star Wars trilogy.
I did too. Well, okay, so yeah, a couple other things. So yes, it was the fan backlash, rightfully so, that they were worried about, because that is another thing. Sadly, there are a lot of fans amongst Star Wars fans that seem to be very toxic, and that nothing would ever be good enough. It's a very unrealistic expectation to have. Like, it's too much pressure that so many people from the community seem to be placing on these directors and these creative teams. But anyway, I digress. So I understand their concerns with that, but it also seemed to be, once again, a story of Kathleen Kennedy and probably some other higher-ups with Disney kind of clashing and butting heads over the creative direction that they wanted to take it. And then on top of that, that creative direction where they wanted to take it sounded like it would have been the inception of the Jedi Order, which sounded awesome. So it would have been the Old Republic. It would have been the birth of the Jedi, like how their order started. Yes, I absolutely wanted to see that. And it's, it's a bummer that we won't, at least not yet. Obviously, who knows what movie we're going to get that's Star Wars 20 years from now. I'm sure we'll get that story eventually in one way or the other. But, it would have been cool. I would have been lining up to see that for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's whatever.
I agree. Let's see here. Did that cover up on the... That covered up Game of Thrones.
Yeah, it's good on Game of Thrones.
Whatever. We'll see what happens when they come out.
I mean,
we don't know anything about directors, stars, anything like that.
It's
so
too
whatever.
early for all that. I want it to do well. I'll say that to put my own pin on it. I obviously want it to do well. I like Game of Thrones, but it put a damper on my expectations.
Right now, I don't care about Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
so
I'm
I'm so far away from it that
I don't wish it any ill will, but I don't really care about it right now. That's a good point.
Yeah, they need to re-earn my trust in what they're going to do. Specifically my trust, not anybody else's. So I don't have to drag them. Let's talk Zorro. So this
childhood favorite.
This was
Yes.
I'll jump in here. I used to watch this with my grandpa in
Really?
black and white on Disney.
Okay, hold on. Wait, hold on. So when the story appeared on the Hollywood Reporter today, the premise was CBS is going to, or it greenlit, a Zorro television series in the modern day with a female lead. Now, like everybody else, I did not read this article. Okay, just the headline. So Joe did his due diligence and read the article.
Yes.
So my initial reaction, specifically coming off of watching the Terminator, was, great, this will bomb. And after 3 episodes, they're going to cancel this show. Which they still might cancel the show after 3 episodes because it's a CBS show and whatever. Joe said, because my complaint was, well, first off, Zorro's a Hispanic man, so there's already diversity there. So if we're just going to flip the gender because we're making it 2019 or 2020, okay, that's fine. Joe took a different approach to it. Joe read the article and simply said it's not going to be that they're taking Zorro and making Zorro female. It's that it's probably going to be a descendant of Zorro's.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Like, I'm okay with the Hawkeye approach. I'm okay with stuff like that. But let's talk this through. So, Nate, I was shocked when Joe told me that he's a diehard Zorro fan.
Diehard? Those are the words you used?
I don't remember if that's exactly what
I put
used,
words
but
in his mouth all the time.
I shared a similar story, though, with Garrett just earlier today that I also used to watch the original black and white Zorro movies and television series and whatever it was. Yeah, with my dad specifically. But yes, that was a big part of my childhood. I used to put on a Zorro mask and run around with a little plastic sword and pretend I was fighting the bad guys.
I was the Dread Pirate Roberts.
Oh, the Dread Pirate Roberts. Good reference.
That's right. It's basically Zorro.
Yes.
If you think about it.
Yeah, really.
It's funny because when we were talking about this, the diversity, we were talking about because the picture obviously is Antonio Banderas.
Uh-huh.
And, it's great how he's this Hispanic guy. But the best part is he's actually not the original Zorro. It's Anthony Hopkins, who's the original Zorro in the movie. The white guy that's training the Hispanic guy to become Zorro.
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I don't know. I do like the Antonio Banderas movie Zorro. Or Mask of Zorro, I think it's called.
Good call.
I do like that movie. I think that's a very good movie. I remember
They
watching
made a
it.
sequel, too, didn't they?
It did.
The Legend of Zorro?
Yeah, something like that.
I think
Wasn't quite as good.
Isn't it his daughter?
I don't know.
Gosh, dude, I've seen that maybe once or twice. 10 years ago, probably more.
So
It's been a while.
What are you wanting out of this show? What needs to happen in the show for this to be successful?
Already, my problem with I love the premise of it. I would have loved to see Zorro's daughter or something along those lines, her taking up her father's mantle, so to speak, and fighting back against the injustices. Love everything about it. Don't like that they're going to set it in modern day. And that's purely because, once again, growing up as a kid, Zorro for me, the importance of it, or not just necessarily the importance of it, but what drew me to it was the setting itself. You guys know I love Westerns. So, having that kind of older vibe to it, I guess you could say, was a huge part of the draw for me. So the fact that this will now be, I'm going to hazard a guess, a vigilante wearing a mask, fighting criminals in the modern day. Dare I say we have enough of that?
Can I tell you why it does? Yeah, the Watchmen.
Yeah.
Can I tell you why it doesn't necessarily work with this character in the modern day? Is the sword. I have a problem with the sword, specifically if you're going to use the fencing sword.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that people aren't walking around with. So I think if that's going to be like it's 2020, we have a female like
You're just gonna be arrested the minute they see you carrying around.
But here's the thing, like, so Joe, you're a fan of the show Winona Earp.
I am, yeah.
We love Tombstone. We love Wyatt Earp. Like, I'm okay with this show because it's not her becoming Wyatt Earp. It's her being a descendant of Wyatt Earp. That's okay. That's a great story. Tell that story. You know what I mean? Like, again, this is going to go into my segue and my rant into Terminator later. I just want somewhat of an original story. So if she's not going to be the original Zorro, I'm okay with that. She can be a descendant of Zorro, something like that. I just don't know how she's going to walk around with and do justice to what Zorro is with a sword in 2020.
Yeah, I think that's my concern too. Once again, it was the setting that drew me most to it, that kind of swashbuckling element to it. That was one of my favorite things about it, at least as a kid. Now, can they tell a much more compelling story, I think, especially with the current political climate, by kind of tackling it at this capacity, make you think a little bit more? I think they can absolutely do that. I think they should do that. But once again, the swashbuckling element, I can't get that part out of my head. And the fact that it's going to be set in the modern day, it's just going to feel like any other vigilante show, any other procedural, potentially, I think. What I can see them doing outside of that is, as a nod to Zorro, is have her be a fencer in a club, like in a fencing club, or that's her sport. And that's the only time you'll see her using a sword, really, is when she goes to maybe do a fencing tournament. So I could see them using that as a fun little nod to the original character, but then her going out to fight crime, I'm guessing it's going to be like hand-to-hand kind of stuff.
So Wikipedia has it that she will be named following Z, a female descendant of the Zorro bloodline. Again, fine with that. As she fulfills her duty to protect the defenseless in her community. Okay.
I'm good so far.
Yeah, no, and that's fine. Right? When I initially saw it, though, my reaction was, why not, right? Why not just flip the gender and see how fast this crashes? Now, again, 100% wrong. That was my initial reaction. I did not read the article, like most people don't. Joe did. He did his due diligence. She's a descendant, and that's fine. That's a different story to be told. So,
the only thing I can think of to kind of equate it to that was successful was the Green Arrow on the CW. When you take a bow and arrow versus guns, and automatic guns and whatever, and other superheroes, it did a pretty good job of interweaving that to where it was believable to some degree.
Yeah, good call.
But I still struggle when you guys said it wasn't based in real time.
Here's my question:
real time, but nowadays as a hard pass.
I guess my question would be why Zorro in the modern day? I think it would be easier to adapt like a Robin Hood today into the modern day. You would have a corrupt official, you would have, defenseless community, you'd have a person that basically robs from the rich, gives to the poor. I guess I don't understand why they wouldn't take the approach to adapt a Robin Hood show in the modern time.
Because I think they can probably actually do that with this while hitting on more important notes alongside it.
What important
notes? What I mean? So, culturally, if you look at what's happening here
diversity.
In the States.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, like I said, I think there's important stories to be told there. I think representation in film and in television is really important. So,
I'm really glad you brought that up.
Oh, did I just create a segue for you?
So let's segue off of Zorro because we don't know much more beyond that.
We don't. Now we're just rambling. But
yeah. So let's go ahead and put this to bed with my review of the Terminator. Again, as I've stated on this podcast many times, I am a diehard Terminator fan. It's one of my favorite franchises. I have seen all the movies. I go to the movies in the theaters. I buy all the movies. I really, really enjoy it. Arnold Schwarzenegger is my, as a kid, he was my action hero.
How many action figures do you own?
A lot. Actually, quite a bit of Terminator. I had the glasses. I had a leather, like a child's jacket of it. I had a lot of Terminator gear. I really enjoyed specifically T2, obviously, right? Because it's so great.
T2's awesome.
I was excited. I was excited that James Cameron came back to the franchise. I was not excited because as we started getting trailers for the show or the movie, they started disqualifying movie 3, 4, 5, stuff like that. So I went and saw Terminator. And I was excited for the return of Linda Hamilton. What I will tell you is, spoiler alert. So if you don't want to listen to what's going to happen in the the Terminator movie, then go ahead and shut the podcast off now. Go ahead and give us a review, 5 stars, and then we'll be back next week.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, if you want to know about the Terminator review and my thoughts on it, stick around. So they literally kill off John Connor in this show in 47 seconds.
I would like to comment.
Go ahead.
To say that you were correct. Whatever spoiler you read weeks ago apparently was accurate.
Yeah, they said he would die in the first 5 minutes. Yeah. He literally dies in the first 47 seconds.
Jeez.
He gets shot twice as a child with a shotgun. So, and really, you can't even tell it's Edward Furlong, so I don't even know what the big deal about bringing him back into it was. They did a younger CGI version of Linda Hamilton, Edward Furlong, and the Terminator.
They deep faked him?
Yeah. The premise of it was they killed off John Connor. Now, Skynet, so Terminator 2, events of Terminator 2 take place, right? So they're successful. They defeat Skynet. They alter the history. What they don't tell you is they retcon that multiple Terminators came back through the timeline. And so these guys, the specific Terminator that is in this movie, Carl, finds him in Mexico, kills him, and then just goes and lives his life because Skynet never existed. So this Terminator is now stuck in our timeline, or this timeline specifically, to live. Okay, kind of similar like how Pops in the Genesis movie was kind of stuck in the timeline and he was just aging because he couldn't get out of the timeline.
Okay.
So they don't do a good job of explaining timelines in this movie, this franchise either. So Linda Hamilton then spends her life trying to hunt down Terminators that she finds. Okay, that's what her premise is. But fast forward to the present day, and you get that Grace, who is basically the altered human. She's not a Terminator, but she's not human. She's an altered human from the future sent back to defend Natalia Reyes' character, or Natalia Reyes' character.
Couple questions.
Go ahead.
Why are they trying to kill Reyes?
Ooh, why do you think?
Because she's the next mother of the Resistance leader?
You would think that, but no. She actually is the next John Connor.
Okay. Question 2, how did What's-Her-Face Grace get modified, and did humans do it? Or did
yes. So with this timeline that ends with Skynet, another timeline shifts out, and they now create, instead of Skynet, you have Legion. And Legion basically creates Terminators and sends them back. Okay? So
for the same purpose that all the other original Terminators sent back?
Yeah, to prevent...
To succeed in the future?
Bottom line is, the movie itself was... I'll tell you this. The back end of the movie was better than the front end. So the front is... There's some action to it, right? It's not necessarily great. Linda Hamilton's the best part of the beginning of the movie.
Okay.
Arnold Schwarzenegger is by far the best part of this movie again. He is funny. He's got the best scenes. It is really neat. The Rev 9, who's like the villain of the show, he's like the liquid T-1000 Terminator.
Oh, yeah.
He's great because he's more like deadly than the T-1000, but not as like crazy robotic like Inspector Gadget as the Terminatrix was in T3.
So my understanding from the trailer was that he's two identities, right? He's the liquid Terminator like the T-1000 and...
So no, what he is he can shift out like a... Like, you remember like Mortal Kombat Noob Saibot had like the ability to have like a shadow? Mm-hmm. He can do him... Like, he has his body, but he can like shadow out an endoskeleton essentially. Not that's like liquid, but like it will just reform back into him. Now, he doesn't shift out more than just once. So he can go one time and then that's it. So it's like him and like kind of like a smaller version of him. You know what I mean? But it's a skeleton.
Okay.
He's actually good in the movie. I was actually very surprised by him. I still don't think he's as good as the T-1000.
Okay.
He's a little bit more over the top than the T-1000 is, but it was okay. Like he was cool.
His one line from the trailer when he walks through the metal detector is awesome.
Yeah, no, he's pretty legit. I mean, like I said, I'm okay with him. I have no problem with the Rev 9. I have no problem with Grace. I actually thought Grace was pretty good. I'm fine with Grace. What I have a problem with is the fact that they killed John Connor. Because for 30 years, John Connor was the most important linchpin to this franchise. What they should have done, similar to making the Zorro character the bloodline descendant, is they should have had her be John Connor's daughter. They should have had some connection to John Connor for this lady. They did not. She is just a lady who became the leader of the resistance in the brand new future timeline after Skynet gets defeated. So basically, all they did was kill John Connor just to replace John Connor. And I have problems with that. I just don't think that was good storytelling. She's not a good character. She's actually really not that good in the movie. There's when you go back and watch Terminator 2, Edward Furlong, there are things about him that you say, yeah, I can kind of see how he can become a leader of the resistance. He's a punk kid. He can computer hack. He has an attitude about him. There's just things about him where you're like, yeah, I can see how people would follow him. Even Nick Stahl in the third one has those times where Schwarzenegger picks him up when they're in the mausoleum at Sarah Connor's supposed grave, and he says, F you, machine, you're an effing Terminator. He gets an attitude about it. This girl really doesn't have anything about that. There's no
grit.
There's no grit to her
until the very leadership qualities.
There's no grit till the very end of the movie, but it's not even believable. At least in Terminator 1, Sarah Connor didn't have grit to her until the end where she's actually building bombs. Nothing like that exists with this lady. Okay? Again, I am fine with Grace. I'm fine with Linda Hamilton. I think they were great. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the best part. He is really funny in this movie, too. He has to come up with a story on how he survives and, basically has a living as a Terminator in hiding. He gets a family. Great scene where Linda Hamilton sees him again, shoots him, and he's like, I have a hard time explaining this to my wife. You know what I mean? I mean, just really, but it's perfectly timed, And they're like, what's your wife like about you? And he's like, he goes through all these things. He's like, I'm a great listener, blah, blah, blah. I have a great sense of humor. And he's just deadpanned because he's the Terminator. It was really good. The action scenes are the best with Schwarzenegger. When they're on the plane, it's great. When they're fighting at the end with that chain. The best parts of the movie were in the trailer, of course. All the action was, right?
I hate to see it.
I know.
I think bottom line was nowadays. In 2019 they tried to take John Connor and put him into a female version. Like I said, if they would have just simply connected this lady to John Connor, this would have been different. It would have been different. And it would have been better. And here's the thing, just for the people who are out there, I'm not hating because it's a female. If you would have killed John Connor and had another guy become the leader of the resistance, I have a problem with that too. My problem is John Connor was the single linchpin for this franchise for 30 years. And the only thing you could do was you simply killed him off because you retconned they sent back multiple Terminators. I just don't like that. That's lazy storytelling. And what's worse is that it's Tim Pool and it's James Cameron that did this. And you know what the best part about this is? They bombed at the box office to the point where they're so far in the red on this movie, they can't make another one. This trilogy is already dead.
Yeah.
It's died faster than John Connor.
It's
you know what I mean? And this is great because you know what, James Cameron, if you're going to do this, you don't deserve to make another trilogy of this. I hope you never make another Terminator movie now.
That's maybe one good thing. Your name only carries you so far, but if you kill a franchise, you kill a franchise. There's no bringing it back. Yeah,
but here's the thing. I guess I look at this. I don't know why they had to take out Terminator 3. There's so many fans that are clamoring for a Terminator franchise. They want the war, though. Give us the war. I love Arnold Schwarzenegger. Do you want to know what the best way you can move forward without him being in the franchise is? You go to the future where he didn't exist. You know what I mean? You go to the future where there's the war. Where you don't have to worry about putting an 80-year-old Schwarzenegger in the movie.
Yeah. What are your thoughts about the Christian Bale?
I'm okay with Christian Bale's movie. I think the problem was McGee's production company went out of business. But for instance, Sam Worthington, the guy that's in the movie, that's the
he doesn't understand that he's kind of a Terminator.
That's kind of what Grace is. But Grace knows that she's modified.
Okay.
And they do it in a realistic setting. She's modified to a point. She gets to expend a lot of energy really quick because she speaks to it as she burns out quickly because she goes, when you fight a Terminator, you either have to defend yourself quickly or you die anyways. So it's not like she can stand toe-to-toe the entire movie. There's a lot of times where she is ready to almost die and you have to give her sustenance and medication to keep her alive. So they do a good job of Grace. Like I said, I think if they just would have kept John Connor in there and brought Grace in as a future soldier, it's a better movie. And I think fans would have liked it.
Yeah, I've got a question for both of you guys because I know both of you guys enjoy the Terminator movies. Once again, I have not seen Beyond T2, so if I do end up seeing,
you're doing yourself a favor.
Yeah, which if I do see
Terminator
this,
3 is good.
fair enough. I need to watch all of them in their entirety for sure. But this is what bothered me most. Once again, I have not seen the newest Terminator. I haven't seen Beyond T2, but this is what bothered me the most about it, without having even seen it. I'm going to quote, this is from an article on the Los Angeles Times, but in regard to John Connor being killed. It's a twist Cameron purposefully suggested to jar audience expectations. I said, let's take him out in the first 30 seconds, said Cameron of John Connor's new tragic fate. They're sitting in a pizzeria. Terminator walks in and blows him away. You're 1 minute into the movie. Everybody went, really? You want to do this? I said, yes, said Cameron. And then basically you pull the rug out from underneath the entire construct that's been going on for the last 3 decades. To me, this comes across, end quote. To me, this comes across as him just doing it to mess with people because he's like, oh, I'm back on to help helm this new Terminator movie. How do we mess with people who are huge fans of this franchise? Let's do something that doesn't necessarily make any sense with the sole reason being to subvert their expectations. Once again, I have a huge problem when directors do that. Like, just on its surface, that bothers me. Or I guess, did he direct or he produced, technically? He produced. But regardless.
Deadpool director produced it.
Yes,
or directed
it. You're right. But, like, when that's the reason for the decision, that's the creative process that they have, it's just like, it'd be funny and, like, I think would really throw people off is if we do this thing that they'll all hate. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
And it's like,
that's exactly how I imagine that pitch meeting went. I'm James Cameron.
Exactly.
It's, you know what? Like, we have a Ewan McGregor. We have an Obi-Wan Kenobi story coming. Let's just kill Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Right.
Let's just kill him off in the first episode and see where we go. Like, with the Terminator, I just can't explain it. Like I said, the action was fine. There were parts of the movie that were good. But in the story of it, they deserve the fact that it made no money because nobody wanted to see it. And again, you can argue that it's not so much just simply replacing, like, I get that representation is important. It is. Like, I know that Zorro will allow and lend itself to having a Hispanic female be the lead. That's great. But, like, if you're doing it just to make it 2020, like, and make her Zorro, if that was what they were intending to do, then it's going to probably bomb. Some things don't need to be changed. You need to come up with original stories, original characters. John Connor, again, if you want to kill him off, fine. But you don't kill him off when he's a child. Kill him off in the future, but he has a daughter. He has a wife. Like, here's the thing, too. Everybody can argue that maybe I'm sexist when it comes to Terminator. I'm not, because the reality is the entire franchise is built around strong female characters. Linda Hamilton is the star of the first movie. The second movie, Linda Hamilton's a very badass character. The third movie, Claire Danes is tougher than Nick Stahl, and the villain is a female Terminator, right? The fourth movie, Terminator Salvation, there's strong female characters in there, not as many. But in the fifth
his
one,
wife carries him through emotionally.
Right? In the fifth one, Sarah Connor is stronger than Kyle Reese. Like, there are strong female characters historically through this franchise. Linda Hamilton coming back was great. Grace is actually a cool character, and I'm fine with her. They explained it, how she is, the way she is, and that's great. You just got to keep John Connor in there. Like, that's all you needed to do. And they just couldn't do it. Now, Schwarzenegger, not going to probably be in another movie.
Probably not.
Even if they do a sequel. And it just really sucks that the last one that he was a part of, he was really good in it. And it bombs.
They'll deep fake him in, like they did in the sixth one. I don't remember which number it was in.
Well, I think
the young him.
I wouldn't be surprised if they're... Well, we talked about, Joe, that one time, that episode not too far back about copyright violations.
Yeah.
And how it's possible that the copyright... The ownership rights to actually the Terminator franchise is reverting back to somebody else, and the Cameron would have to buy that guy out. And so it's very possible we're just not going to get another one. And right now it's fine. That will be the third start and stop of a trilogy with Terminator.
That's what baffles me the most about that. I can't think of very many other franchises that have kind of had these halting starts and stops to try to get things rebooted. I mean, maybe Spider-Man. Spider-Man comes to mind, I guess, in regard to that.
Yeah.
But
you at least get like...
Only in stories with timelines. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But didn't Andrew Garfield have two Spider-Mans?
He had two Spider-Mans,
Yeah, so he went farther than any of these other start and stop franchises.
Yeah, fair enough.
You guys have anything else to add tonight?
Gosh, I had maybe just a couple things.
Go ahead.
To throw out real quick because some of these are more recent news. So Andy Serkis, who was the voice of Gollum, famous for motion capture, has pioneered a lot in the special effects industry. He is in talks to play Alfred Pennyworth in the new Batman movie coming up with Robert Pattinson. Similarly, Colin Farrell is in talks to play the Penguin. So
Don't like that. You guys?
I do like it.
I think it'd be all right. I'm kind of meh that decision. I
No,
guess.
I'm okay with it. And Paul Dano is going to be the Riddler.
Yep, Paul Dano's
So
the
we
Riddler.
talked
I
about
really
this.
like that.
We talked about this today, Joe. We talked about how our concern for the number of villains in this movie.
Correct.
Now, unless Catwoman teams up or Robin shows up in this film, what I actually suggested was they should make this, because I'm actually really excited for Robert Pattinson to play Batman.
Yeah, me too, man. I
They
think he's
should
gonna do a
make
great
this
job.
and film this similar to the way they set out like the movie Sin City. So the reason why I say that it's not cartoonish, but you make it separate stories. So if they're going to lean on this as darker with a detective background, you can make it 3 different stories where Robert Pattinson is showing you how he's becoming Batman and Bruce Wayne as a detective as he's capturing or interacting with these 3 different villains in 3 different timelines. Okay? At the end, if you wanted to unite the villains and for a sequel movie, that is fine. But I feel like he should be able to show how is he engaging with the Penguin, shows you him dealing with the Penguin, maybe for the first 45 minutes. Then it shows him flashing forward, maybe he's dealing with the Riddler, and then he's dealing with Catwoman. I feel like that would maybe be an interesting way to take this. Similar, different story arcs.
I think it'd definitely be interesting. We know that this is supposed to be more of a detective story. We don't know much about it yet, but we know it's supposed to be more of Batman in detective mode.
Right.
And that's very intriguing to me. That will be something we haven't gotten a whole lot of yet. I think some of the video games do a really good job with that, but in the movies, we haven't gotten detective Batman in his purest form.
Well, I think it will be interesting because I think that Robert Pattinson should be the youngest Bruce Wayne. And I think that will be interesting because he's going to look, let's be fair. We like Robert Pattinson. He will look odd under the hood. When he is dressed up in the Batman outfit, he will look a little, because he's so young.
Well,
he's going to kind of look like a
You see
boy.
his mouth.
I don't know. He's got the stubble. He's got the chiseled jaw. Kind of. I don't think he's going to look funny. I think.
Do you think he looks, but he's going to look so much younger. I know he's going to sparkle to you, but
Wait, who are you talking to?
but I think that he's, it will be odd. Don't get me wrong. I'm 100% ready to be supportive of this. I'm going to go see it. I'm excited for it.
Right.
I actually think Robert Pattinson's a good actor.
I do too. I think he's really great. He seems very bizarre at times.
On a
but
side note,
love Twilight.
I'm really interested to see The Lighthouse with Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson.
yes, I'm excited to see that as
Oddball
well.
movie, kind of a horror flick, black and white.
Sounds like a wild ride.
Strangely interested
For
in
sure.
that.
Yes.
Anyway.
And apparently, he actually, as a result of working with William Dafoe on that movie, is going to channel some of that performance, I believe, for Batman.
Good.
I want to say.
It's gonna be good.
There is a vague Lighthouse connection to the upcoming Batman movie.
Maybe
as a matter of fact.
maybe DC's going to rebound. I mean, Joker's pushing $1 billion now.
Yeah, Joker is doing insanely well.
Yes.
We've got Batman coming up, which I think there's going to be a decent amount of hype surrounding this.
Yeah, I think so, too.
I wish them the best. I hope this turns out really, really great. I really do.
I heard another rumor on the radio in regards to Robert Pattinson's training, as far as he's training with the same people that Keanu Reeves trained with for John Wick.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
so
that's awesome.
that holds out a lot of hope for me.
So basically, the Penguin, they're going to get shot in the head within the first 30
It's going to be
seconds.
5 minutes long.
Yes. What
It's
else you
funny
got?
because Batman doesn't
And he
use
said,
guns, but
you know what'd be really funny is if we kill off all the villains in the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's just Bruce Wayne brooding.
Yeah.
just sitting in the cave.
What else you got, Joe? Anything else?
Yeah, last thing to close it out here, once again, because it was recently announced, and we've all dabbled with D&D, Dungeons & Dragons,
Yes.
so I thought this was pretty cool. I've actually listened to the podcast version of this, but Vox Machina. So if anyone has heard of the name Matthew Mercer, he's probably the best-known dungeon master with Dungeons & Dragons. He's phenomenal. If anyone out there doesn't understand the hype about Dungeons & Dragons and why it's so fun, like, go check out Matthew Mercer in Critical Role specifically. So,
And before you knock it too, try to do it yourself.
Yeah.
Before you
Well,
try to
that too.
criticize.
Well, what makes it exciting for that is the people who are playing it are voice actors. So,
Yes.
like, they really it's basically just a story being told that is constantly ever shifting.
Absolutely. There's a lot of improvisational elements to it. It's a lot of storytelling on the fly. It's a lot of fun. So yes, not only should you check this out, but you should also try picking up the beginner's box. You can get it for about $25. I think Target sells it. Go out and give it a try. Get together with a group of your friends. It's a lot of fun. It really is.
It's not nerdy anymore. Just
It's
do
not.
it.
No, it's not nerdy anymore. That's
It's a
so
lot
true.
of fun.
And that is, I guess, to read the headline here specifically, but Amazon has picked up Critical Role's animated show as a Prime exclusive. This is an article on The Verge, if you guys would like to go out and read it. But this sounds really cool. I don't know yet if they're going to take existing stories within Critical Role and Vox Machina and have them freestyle, if you will, and generate these stories organically. I get more the impression that it's going to be an animated series that has a script that they are lending their voice talents to tell the stories of their characters.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah,
I don't
within
think
that
it's.
set.
I don't think it's going to be a randomization.
I don't think so either.
I would hope for the opposite, honestly, because I really enjoy listening to the podcast of those guys just improvising.
Yeah.
and it feels more like you're in the moment with those individuals.
Well, but there's a lot of laughing and stuff and off comments that go.
There
like,
is, yeah.
There's a lot of
like-
inappropriate things too,
Well,
so I don't know what audience they're trying to
Not just
direct
that,
this
but
towards.
I mean, as a cartoon, you need it to be concise and follow a script. So it's going to be a scripted show.
I imagine it will. And something else that was cool, I remember reading about this. I just wanted to throw it out because The Verge references this in the same article. But Critical Role launched a Kickstarter. It was earlier in the year. And they were going to do, it sounds like a spin-off episode, essentially, from their Dungeons & Dragons storylines. So they launched this Kickstarter. To begin, quote, within 40 minutes, the Kickstarter had exceeded its goal of $750,000, leading the company to extend their campaign to fund a full 10-episode series. The Kickstarter went on to raise $11,385,449 from 88,887 backers, making it the highest-funded TV, film, or animation project on Kickstarter.
unbelievable.
That is pretty unbelievable. I agree. So I'm really excited for this.
Well, it's funny you guys thought that because we are going to start an animated series on Kickstarter, and you can go out and donate today.
Here's the thing: when you donate and nothing comes out, you don't get your money back. Though
If you donate, Nate will call you.
I'll carry on a conversation with you.
Yes.
But
4 minutes tops.
4 minutes tops.
Nothing
He will
personal.
set a timer.
He will leave
But,
you a 4-minute voicemail.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't answer,
But yeah, this is cool. So once again, it'll be 24 episodes. Amazon picked it up. It'll be on Prime. If you guys are interested in Critical Role and Vox Machina specifically, go check out their podcast. Check out their Twitch channel. You can catch them on there. Matthew Mercer and co. in general have a bunch of YouTube videos out there as well. So if you want to see him play Dungeons and Dragons with Vin Diesel, he has a short out there for a one-shot campaign he did. It's pretty cool stuff. Go give
Nice.
it a listen and or watch.
Nate, anything to add?
there's a lot of celebrities that show up in Critical Role.
Yeah.
By the way, so
All right.
give it a shot.
Okay.
I highly recommend it.
Well, we want to thank you guys for joining us again tonight. Obviously we enjoy your feedback. So if you want to let us know what you think of Nate, we're at aliensandcowboys@gmail.com. You can follow us on
Please
Twitter.
be honest.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter at Alien and Cowboy. You can catch us every week again. We'll be back next week with Aliens and Cowboys podcast. Joe and I, we do the every week breakdown of the Watchmen series. Again, that's Watchmen for Nixon podcast. Go out there and subscribe to that. We do like your guys', like I said, review us, leave us a rating, let us know what you think. And we'll be back next week. Tell a friend, tell your mom, tell Nate's mom.
That's right.
Yep.
She already knows.
And does she subscribe?
No.
Ugh, I'm going to talk to her. And we'll be back with you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.